Shastra. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapurikamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganayamanathanatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Prajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sargamalita Shri Vishakhamritamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitramane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastrarthi Piyusha Sarva Vedika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya Sarva Lokaikatakprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Karidvanto Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pathaya Brahmavashakshirayate Sarvada Sarva Sevya Shri Krishna Namastume Madeka Bandho Matsange Madguru Manmahadhanam Manisarga Madbhagya Madananda Namastute Sadhu Sadhudadaya Natini Chatakara Anamanchakadachin Mantrevana Hritkantheyospura Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, this is 1.9.49. Oh, this is okay. What I'll do is I'll read the verse, translation, and then I'll go to Sridhar Swami, Jiva Goswami, Krishna Chakravarti, and for first canto we have Baladev Vidyabhushan also. Then I'll come to Prabhupada. It's just convenient for me. I have all these screens. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 49. Pitra Chanumato Raja Vasudevanu Chakara Rajyam Dharmena Pitra Paitamaham Vibhuhu. After this, the great religious king Maharaj Yudhishthira executed the royal power in the kingdom strictly according to the codes of royal principles approved by his uncle and confirmed by Lord Sri Krishna. Maharaj Yudhishthira was not a mere tax collector. He was always conscious of his duty as a king, which is no less than that of a father or spiritual master. The king is to see to the welfare of the citizens from all angles of social, political, economic, and spiritual upliftment. The king must know that human life is meant for liberating the engaged soul from the bondage of material conditions, and therefore his duty is to see that the citizens are properly looked after to attain this higher stage of perfection. Maharaj Yudhishthira followed these principles strictly, as will be seen from the next chapter. Not only did he follow the principles, but he also got approval from his old uncle, who was experienced in political affairs. And that was also confirmed by Lord Krishna, the speaker of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. Maharaj Yudhishthira is the ideal monarch, and monarchy under a trained king like Maharaj Yudhishthira is by far the most superior form of government, superior to modern republics or governments of the people by the people. Prabhupada does not mention for the people because all the governments are meant to be for the people. The mass of people, especially in this age of Kali, are all born Shudras. Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Basically low born, ill trained, unfortunate, and badly associated. They themselves do not know the highest perfectional aim of life. Therefore, votes cast by them actually have no value, and thus persons elected by such irresponsible votes cannot be responsible representatives like Maharaj Yudhishthira. Chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwaraka. 1. Shaunaka Uvacha हत्वा स्वरिक्थस्पृधा तथा येनो युधिष्ठिरो धर्मं घृतां वरिष्ठः सहानुजैः प्रत्यवरुद्ध भोजनः कथं प्रवृत्तः किम् अकारशीत् ततः. Shaunaka Muni said, after killing his enemies who desired to usurp his rightful inheritance, how did the greatest of all religious men, Maharaj Yudhishthir, assisted by his brothers, rule his subjects? Surely he could not freely enjoy his kingdom with unrestricted consciousness. Sridhar Swami. दशमे कृतकार्यस्य हस्तिनापुरो हरेः स्त्रीभिः संस्तूयमानस्य वर्ण्यते द्वारकागमः. In the 10th chapter, it is Lord Hari's arrival at or departure to Dwaraka is described. He had departed from Hastinapura after completing his tasks. At that time, he was glorified by the ladies of Hastinapura, royal ladies of Hastinapura. Rajyam chakareti uttam tatah pritchati. In the previous chapter, it was noted that King Yudhishthir conducted his kingdom. He ruled his kingdom. So this is a question about that. Hatveti. Swasya rikthe. Swariktha spritha. Dhane spardante sma ye tatha. Yadva swariktaya sprit sangramo yesham eva dhanadi haranad atayanaha. The expression atatayinaha appears here. After killing the aggressors, atatayi appears to be a legal expression. The ones who steal wealth and so on. 6 types of aggressors we learn. It is from Dharma Shastra, quoted by Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan and Prabhupada in their commentaries also. So Sri Yudhishthir killed them, tan hatva, pratyavruddha bhojanaha, bandhuvada dukhkena sankuchita bhogaha. He restricted the acceptance of his necessities, pratyavruddha bhojanaha, because he was in distress that his relatives had been killed. Rajyalabhena prapta bhogo va. Pratyavruddha bhojana also indicates that he had attained his necessary enjoyments after attaining the kingdom. Katham Raje Pravrittaha. How was he engaged? Pravritto vatadah kim akarshit. Was he engaged in ruling the kingdom? What else did he do? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Nasya Nishkantake Rajye Pandavam Swapurim Hare Gachatah Kurunari Stutir Dashama Uchyate. So Lord Krishna had given Nishkantaka Rajya, a kingdom without thorns, problem-free kingdom. The sages knew that from the last verse of the previous chapter, that Yudhishthir engaged in ruling the kingdom and he was taking care of the citizens of the kingdom and so on, simply with the approval of Lord Vasudeva. They knew this in general. Samanyato gyatva api vishesham jigyasu. Prichyati. So they knew in general about this, but they wanted to know specific details. And therefore, they asked this question here. Baladev Vidyabhushan Rajye Yudhishtiram Nyasya Govinde Hatakantake Gachan Dvaravatiim Stri Samsito Dashaneva. So this Nyasya is not Nas. It's Nyasya. One thing is Yudhishthir had dedicated his thorn-free kingdom to Lord Govinda. Yeah.
Your voice is a lot.
My voice is breaking?
No, we are able to hear.
Like
Clear.
maybe then mic connected. Okay.
Achitana bro, your voice is breaking.
This is an experiment today. If everything works. Anyway, if my video is giving trouble, let's turn off all the videos. It's only sound.
No, it's his internet problem. It's not your.
As of now, I have a backup here.
Correct.
Just in case. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan notes that Shaunaka Muni was not satiated with the discussion of topics regarding Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna's devotees, pure devotees. Therefore, again he is asking, Duryodhana and others are considered aggressors here. Prabhupada. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the greatest of all men of religion. Thus, he was not at all inclined to fight with his cousins for the sake of enjoying the kingdom. He fought for the right cause because the kingdom of Hastinapur was his rightful inheritance and his cousins wanted to usurp it for themselves. He fought, therefore, for the right cause under the guidance of Lord Sri Krishna, but he could not enjoy the results of his victory because his cousins were all killed in the fight. He therefore ruled over the kingdom as a matter of duty, assisted by his younger brothers. The inquiry was important for Shaunaka Rishi, who wanted to know about the behavior of Maharaj Yudhishthir when he was at ease to enjoy the kingdom. Generally, when we are under pressure, we follow various restraints. But when you are given a free hand, then you might do whatever you want. So people generally want to know whether you are accepting the rules and regulations and restrictions of Vedic scriptures, including the higher principles of Moksha Dharma, Bhagavata Dharma, when you have full freedom to not accept those restrictions. That they want to know. 2. Sutovacha. Vamsham kurur vamshad davagninirhritam samrohayitva bhavabhavano hari. Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro yudhishtiram pritam manabhavuvaha. Suta Goswami said, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the maintainer of the world, became pleased after re-establishing Maharaj Yudhishthira in his own kingdom and after restoring the Kuru dynasty, which had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. Rajya pravrittau Shri Krishnasya pritim paryalochya pravritta ityashena uttaramaha. Considering that Lord Sri Krishna was happy that the king had begun to engage in the kingdom as its ruler, he speaks this verse. Vamsham kuroh samrohiyitva parikshit rakshanena samrohya ankuritam kritva. After restoring the Kuru dynasty, which had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger means after having protected the seed of the dynasty in the form of Parikshit Maharaj, Sambhutam Vamshad Avagni Nirkritam. Katham Bhutam Vamshad Avagni Nirkritam. Vamsheva Dava Vanam. Tasmad Udbhutaha Yah Krodharupagni. Tena Nirkritam Dagdham. The kingdom had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. Nijarajye Niveshyacha. And he had given the kingdom back to Yudhishthir. It was actually meant for Yudhishthir, so it is considered Yudhishthir's kingdom. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur notes, Yatha Swasankharshothena Agnina Dahyate Tathaiva Purvamshamapi Paraspara Krodhotta Yuddhena Hatam Ityarthaha. See, there's an example of a forest fire set by the bamboos that has a reference to the Lord's own dynasty. The Yadavas also, they had fought between themselves and burnt themselves by the fire of anger. That would happen a little later on. So like that, the dynasty of the Kurus also, they were destroyed through a war which was brought about by mutual animosity towards each other, mutual fury towards each other. Bhavam Mahadevapi Bhavayati Swalilam Dhyapayati Tisa. What is this? Bhavabhavanaha, the maintainer of creation. Bhavabhavanaha indicates that Lord Shri Krishna causes even Lord Bhava. Bhava is a name for Lord Shiva. Causes even Lord Shiva to meditate upon him. See, the reference to Lord Shiva in this context, Bhava, indicates that it was Lord Krishna through Lord Shiva that brought about this destruction. Lord Shiva is in charge of destruction. Even in the 11th canto, we'll come across references like this. And the Acharyas will explain like this. There we will note that Lord Krishna in the form of Kala, time. Kala is again controlled by Lord Shiva. He brought about the destruction of the Yaduvamsha. Okay, Baladev Vidyabhushan. Harihi. The word Hari is used here. Right. Bhava Bhavano Harihi. Second line, last word. Harihi. Harati Swabhaktanam Dukkham iti Harihi. That indicates that Lord Krishna he removed the distress of his own devotees. Hari means one who takes away. But what? This world is compared to a forest fire caused by the friction of bamboo bushes. Such a forest fire takes place automatically, for bamboo friction occurs without external cause. Similarly, in the material world, the wrath of those who want to lord it over material nature interacts, and the fire of war takes place, exhausting the unwanted population. Such fires or wars take place in human society by the dealings among the population, and the Lord has nothing to do with them. But because he wants to maintain the creation, he desires the mass of people to follow the right path of self-realization, which enables the living beings to enter into the kingdom of God. The Lord wants the suffering human beings to come back home, back to him, and cease to suffer the threefold material pangs. The whole plan of creation is made in that way. And one who does not come to his senses and go back to God, it suffers in the material world the pangs inflicted by the illusory energy of the Lord. The Lord therefore wants his bona fide representative to rule the world. Lord Shri Krishna descended to establish this sort of regime and to kill the unwanted persons who have nothing to do with his plan. The battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of the Lord, so that undesirable persons could get out of the world and a peaceful kingdom under his devotee could be established. The Lord was therefore fully satisfied when King Yudhishthira was on the throne and the seedling of the dynasty of Kuru in the person of Maharaj Parikshit was saved. 3. Nishamya bhishmoktam athachitoktam pravritta vijnana vidhuta vibhrama shashasagamendra ivajitashraya parijyupantam anujananuvartitaha. No, anujanuvartitaha. Maharaj Yudhishthira, after being enlightened by what was spoken by Bhishma Deva and Lord Shri Krishna, the infallible, engaged himself in matters of perfect knowledge, because all his misgivings were eradicated. Thus he ruled over the earth and seas and was followed by his younger brothers. I think he has, Madhvacharya has given a quote from Brahma Purana, but I think he has a different reading. Instead of Parijhupantam, he must be having a different reading, and I don't have. Okay, I'm just leaving it out for time being. Swami, Pravrittau Hetu Muktva Kim Karshit. So, having explained the reason for engaging in the kingdom, what did Yudhishthira do? Ityasya uttaramaha. This is an answer to that anticipated question. Pravrittam yad vijnanam parameshwara adhinam jagat na swatantram ityevam bhutena tena vidhutaha vibhramaha ahankarta iti evam bhutaha moho yasya saha. So Yudhishthira was freed from the delusion that he is the doer. He is the sole independent responsible doer, because he realized that this world is not independent, rather it is fully dependent on the Supreme Lord. To accept something for enjoyment, that is due to ahankar, false ego. To reject something for enjoyment, that is also due to mithya ahankar, false ego. So he was free from both. Attachment and repulsion are just two sides of the same false ego. Anujayi Anuvartita, Sevatah son. He was served by his younger brothers. He was followed by his younger brothers, means he was served by his younger brothers. Ajitaha, Shri Krishna eva ashreyasya saha. He had taken shelter of Lord Shri Krishna. Paridhi samudraha, tat paryantam kam, prithvin palayamasa. He protected the land that was bordered by the seas. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Gam. Okay, Gam Indra Iva. Actually, in the synonyms, it should be Indraha, Indrah dot. So he protected the earth just like King Indra protects Swarga. Ajitaha Shri Krishna, Upendraha cha. And Ajita in Ajitashraya would then mean Lord Shri Krishna with reference to earth, and Lord Upendra, Vamana, with reference to Swarga. So in other words, he had taken shelter of Lord Shri Krishna and protected the earth the way Indra takes shelter of Lord Vamana and protects Swarga. Paridhayaha samudrad urdhogam ding mandalam cha. And Paridyupantam, protected the land bordered by the seas. That is for earth. And bordered by the 8 directions. That is for Indra. Anujanam anuvartita anuvrittir yasmin pakshe anujena upandrena anuvrittim prapitaha. Anujanuvartitaha will, with reference to Yudhishthir, indicates that he was being served by his younger brothers. And with reference to Indra, Anujanuvartitaha will mean the one who was submissively served by Lord Upendra, who was his younger brother. Pravritti Vijnana Vithuta Vibhrama, according to Sri Baladev Vidyabhushana, indicates that he was no longer filled with the Abhiman. Abhiman is a word which I always find it difficult to translate. It is the prideful conception of oneself. So here it indicates that he did not have such an Abhiman as the independent, responsible agent for his kingdom. Purport. The modern English law of primogeniture, or the law of inheritance by the firstborn, was also prevalent in those days when Maharaj Yudhishthir ruled the earth and seas. In those days, the king of Hastinapur, now part of New Delhi, was the emperor of the world, including the seas, up to the time of Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir's younger brothers were acting as his ministers and commanders of state, and there was full cooperation between the perfectly religious brothers of the king. Actually, before the war, Duryodhana had done all kinds of mischief to break up his opposition. And one of the things he did was he tried to create a dissension, quarrel between the Pandavas. But they did not accept that. They did not want to break up under any circumstances. It was right from the beginning very clear that Yudhishthir was supposed to sit on the throne and the rest were supposed to submit to Yudhishthir. Madhvacharya very loudly proclaims that, of course, he is considering the Pandavas to be incarnations of the Devas. And he presents evidence that amongst the various demigods who are incarnated as the Pandavas, Vayu is the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu. His writings are filled with Vayu Bhakti. But if you look at Mahabharata and the lower scriptures, Vayu is indeed presented within the material world. He appears to be in charge of Mahatattva. He's a very powerful person. The Madhvaites, they often say that there's nothing strange with this Vayu Bhakti that is presented here. All the Brahmanas, they recite something called Shanti Sukta at the beginning and end of any religious ceremony. And in that, we come across verses, Namaste Vayo, Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi, Tvameva Pratyaksham Vadishyami, Ritam Vadishyami, Satyam Vadishyami. 3 times. 3 times it is said. Vayu, you are the real representative of the Supreme Brahman. I say this truth. I say this truth. I say this truth. So, within the material world, he is considered to be a very, very important person. But in the text of Bhagavatam, we don't come across it. So therefore, as Gaudiya Vaishnava, since we are followers of Srimad Bhagavatam, we consider it very very strange doctrine. What is this? Why you given so much importance? But within the material sphere and for the Swanishthas, Vayu is a very important person. Vayu becomes the next Brahma. So Madhvacharya, he always portrays Bhima as dearest to Lord Krishna, and that Mahabharata is nothing but Krishna Katha mixed with Bhima Katha. So yeah, he presented all this. Madhvacharya was asked to preach like this by Vyasadeva, so he had to do it. And it's not wrong, it's not completely wrong, considering the Devamshas. But even that, you should note that even though he thinks like that, he did not, Bhima did not try to take over the throne. Listening to Yudhishthira, submissive to Yudhishthira. Even there was even when there were conflicts between Bhima and Yudhishthira, ultimately Bhima submitted to Yudhishthira because Lord Sri Krishna wanted Yudhishthira on the throne. He was the eldest. So that concept was very strong in Vedic culture, that if there is an authority, and he may be inferior to you also, still you should submit and not try to act smart. Submit, because that is what Lord Krishna wants. From Srimad Bhagavatam, we learned that Arjuna is the dearest to Krishna. And this we are talking about the eternal associates. But even here we see Arjuna submitted to Yudhishthira. He also submitted to Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira was always considered the king. In those days, the king of Hastinapur, now part of New Delhi, was emperor of the world, including the seas, up to the time of Maharaj Parikshit. Okay, where am I? Maharaj Yudhishthira was the ideal king or representative of Lord Sri Krishna to rule over the kingdom of earth and was comparable to King Indra, the representative ruler of the heavenly planets. The demigods like Indra, Chandra, Surya, Varuna, and Vayu are representative kings of different planets of the universe, and similarly, Maharaj Yudhishthira was also one of them, ruling over the kingdom of the earth. Maharaj Yudhishthira was not a typically unenlightened political leader of modern democracy. Democracy is not liked so much by many political philosophers also in today's world. Maharaj Yudhishthira was instructed by Bhishma Deva, an infallible lord also, and therefore he had full knowledge of everything in perfection. The reason why they cannot conceive of anything beyond democracy is they don't know what else to do. First of all, they think that the world literally had a beginning at a certain point, whether it is according to the creation as presented in the Bible. In the beginning, there was nothing, and then God created the world. So then everything had a beginning. If everything had a beginning, everything should have an end also. So time goes straight. So therefore, they think that, and they think that the world develops, increases, becomes better. This is the religious people. The irreligious people, they think everything evolves, and they also think better. So they think that, okay, we tried out monarchy didn't work. So then a superior form of governance is democracy. Democracy is not working. We don't know what else could be better than this. So what they don't understand is actually it's the opposite. It's not that it's becoming better. It's becoming worse, and it's cyclical. So it was actually much better. The modern elected executive head of a state is just like a puppet because he has no kingly power. Even if he's enlightened like Maharaj Yudhishthira, he cannot do anything out of his own goodwill due to his constitutional position. Therefore, there are so many states over the earth quarreling because of ideological differences or other selfish motives. But a king like Maharaj Yudhishthira had no ideology of his own. He had but to follow the instructions of the infallible Lord and the Lord's representative, an authorized agent like Bhishma Deva. It is instructed in the Shastras that one should follow the great authorities and the infallible Lord without any personal motive or manufactured ideology. Therefore, it was possible for Maharaj Yudhishthira to rule the whole world, including the seas, because the principles were infallible and universally applicable to everyone. In other words, this is not ruled by fiat. It is not that he himself is deciding, okay, this is what, whatever I command, that will be the law. It's not like that. This is called constitutional monarchy in modern political thought. Monarchy governed by a constitution. And Actually, strictly speaking, this is scriptural constitution. So it is scriptural constitutional monarchy. Vedic scriptural constitutional monarchy. So the king was under the Brahmanas, who were fixed in the Brahmanical restrictions. Kshatriyas can never follow Brahmanical authority when the Brahmanas are not visibly and without duplicity following higher principles of virakti, renunciation. I've seen it in ISKCON also. Will simply not accept. Will not accept. If you say Yukta Vairagi, this, that, they'll only become more angry. And when they come in power, they'll simply torture you. You said Yukta Vairagi, all this bogus fellow. You will simply try to enjoy their senses in the name of Yukta Vairagi. One of the reasons that the Pandavas were successful in their governance was because they listened to bona fide Brahmanas. The conception of one world state can only be fulfilled if we can follow the infallible authority. An imperfect human being cannot create an ideology acceptable to everyone. Only the perfect and infallible can create a program which is applicable at every place and can be followed by all in the world. So the idea is you have Kshatriyas, actually you have Shudras who are under Vaishyas, who are under Kshatriyas, who are under Brahmanas, who are under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Varnashrama Charvata, Purushena Parahpuman, Vishnu Aradhyate Pantha. So when you have that kind of person ruling with that hierarchy properly, then it's possible to do good to this world. It is a person who rules and not the impersonal government. If the person is perfect, the government is perfect. If the person is a fool, the government is a fool's paradise. Even for ISKCON, Prabhupada has stated if the leaders are not ideal, then ISKCON will become a fool's paradise. That is a law of nature. There are so many stories of imperfect kings or executive heads. Therefore, the executive head must be a trained person like Maharaj Yudhishthira, and he must have the full autocratic power to rule over the world. So one thing is he is meant to be trained. He is meant to be ideal. But another thing is you must give full autocratic power to him. That is very important. Now, people in today's world are paranoid that autocratic power should never be given because power corrupts. That's their ideology. They think that power corrupts. But just like if you in a hospital, if you have a doctor who is actually well learned and who's quite effective, then his opinion should supersede others' opinion. Not that you take a doctor who's really who has shown good results for 20 years, and then you find another character who's not that effective, and then you find some other people who are not that effective. You put them together, and through democracy, you do. We don't follow democracy when it comes to curing patients in hospitals. We don't follow democracy when it comes to teaching, for instance, in schools. So why for governors there should be a democracy? It makes no sense. The conception of a world state can take shape only under the regime of a perfect king like Maharaj Yudhishthira. The world was happy in those days because there were kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira to rule over the world. For Kamam Varshapavjanya Sarvakama Dukha Mahi Sishichusma Vrajangava Payasotha Swatir Muda. During the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. Tasya Rajyam Anuvarnayati. Now he gives a detailed description of how he ruled his kingdom. Kamamiti Tribhihi. In 3 verses, beginning with text 4. Mahi Sarvakama Dugdhi Bahuva. Vrajan Gosthani. Udhaswatir, Udhaswatyah, Udhaha, Shira Ashayaha Tadvatyah Stula Udhasa Ityarthaha Sishichu Abhishinchan. This is already incorporated in the translation. Udhaswatihi Stulaha Pinavatyaha. The cows had fatty milk bags. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan. Rajya Sukha Samriddhimaha. He points out that there was a happy, prosperous, very prosperous kingdom because of Yudhishthira Maharaj. That is why repeatedly it is said, we follow dharma, we get artha and kama. It will not come immediately, but it will certainly come in this very lifetime. The basic principle of economic development is centered on emphasis, land and cows. So this is natural prosperity, not man-made currency as symbols of prosperity. The necessities of human society are food, grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. One requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly, one does not require flesh and fish or iron tools and machinery. During the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira, all over the world, there were regulated rainfalls. Rainfalls are not in the control of the human being. The heavenly king Indradev is a controller of rains and he is a servant of the Lord. When the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administration, there are regulated rains from the horizon, and these rains are the causes of all varieties of production of the land. Not only do regulated rains help ample production of grains and fruits, but when they combine with astronomical influences, there is ample production of valuable stones and pearls. Grains and vegetables can sumptuously feed a man and animals, and a fatty cow delivers enough milk to supply a man sumptuously with vigor and vitality. If there is enough milk, enough grain, enough fruit, enough cotton, enough silk, and enough jewels, then why do people need economic development in the shape of tools and machines? Can tools and machines supply vigor and vitality to men and animals? Can machinery produce grain, fruit, and milk, or jewels and silk? Are jewels and silk, along with varieties of foodstuffs prepared with ghee, grain, milk, and fruits, not sufficient for man's pure, luxurious, and healthy life? Then what is the need of an artificial, luxurious life of cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels? Has this civilization produced anything more than the doggish mentality of quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men into a hellish factory and war fields at the whims of a particular man? See, we have countries or we have communities, but communities, they follow civilizations. Civilizations dictate what should be done, what should not be done. They dictate values. These are what are referred to as values. This, you must have factories, then you are prosperous. This concept is given in a certain civilization. So if you adopt that civilization, then you have to adopt those values also, which is, there's no need for that. You might as well accept certain elements of even technology cautiously without accepting the values of the civilization that has produced it. Ajagara Vritti. At least we are meant to be doing that as followers of Prabhupada. We accept technology. Prabhupada accepted technology as the best use of a bad bargain, not as the best use of a good bargain. And if you try to attain sadhana siddhi, you can very easily understand that modern technology is simply ugra. It's not the pinnacle of achievement and all that, nothing like that. It's just some manifestation of rakshasic stupidity. It is said here that the cows used to moisten the pasturing land with milk because their milk bags were fatty and the animals were joyful. Do they not require, therefore, proper protection for a joyful life by being fed with a sufficient quantity of grass in the field? Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits, and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthir, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow. The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him sufficiently. Should not a king or executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? See, the logic is very simple. Even in today's world, those who kill just born children are considered extremely cruel demons. Why is that? Because these children, they cannot protect themselves. Those who are not capable of protecting themselves should be given the first priority in state protection. So Prabhupada is applying that to the animals. At least now people should understand it. Now men and women, they love animals more than what it seems to be within the last few centuries. Now there are people who have lots of pets. They love their pets. Sometimes they love the pets more than human beings. They love dogs. They love parrots. They love cats. They love, they talk to them sometimes. Many times they report that these animals understand our minds. Dogs know when their master has left the office and is coming home. To that extent, they're in sync. So they say all these things. They see these animals, they actually love. How can you, how can you kill them? How can you just kill and eat the flesh? Even in today's world, where dogs are very favorite pets, if they have a guest who likes to eat dogs and the guest comes home and he says, I like to kill and eat your dog, then they become completely repulsed. And how can you have such a demoniac thought? My dog is part of family, and you want to kill my child. So if a dog is so lovable, why not cows? Every product of a cow is being demonstrated to be useful. Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Maharaj Yudhishthir, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow. The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him sufficiently. Should not a king or executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? Is this humanity? Are not the citizens of a country citizens also? Why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? There are a number of Christians who ridicule this concept that animals should be given rights, the right to live. Sometimes they ridicule the concept that nature, there are some who are saying that nature should also be given the right to survive. Because in modern world, everything is calculated in terms of a right. We don't calculate it in terms of obligation. So they're talking in terms of rights. But overall, the opinion is tilting favorably towards considering animals to be having rights. Why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? Are these the signs of equality, fraternity, and non-violence? Therefore, in contrast with the modern, advanced, civilized form of government, an autocracy like Maharaj Yudhishthir's is by far superior to a so-called democracy in which animals are killed and a man less than an animal is allowed to is allowed to cast votes for another less than animal man. We are all creatures of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord himself is the seed-giving father, and material nature is the mother of all living beings in all shapes. Emphasis. Thus, mother material nature has enough foodstuff both for animals and for men by the grace of the Father Almighty Shri Krishna. The human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than that of the animals for realizing the course of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilization should depend on the production of material nature without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a chaos of artificial greed and love of power, only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dogs and hogs. Prabhupada actually expressed himself fully in his first canto purports. He was not sure whether he would be able to explain everything that needed to be explained. So he did say that everything he wanted to tell, he put it in his first canto purpose. 5. Nadya samudra girayasa vanaspati rudhaha phalantyoshadhayas sarva kamam anuruttu tasya vai. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. To the king means to King Yudhishthira. Since Maharaj Yudhishthira was under the protection of Ajita, the invincible lord, as above mentioned, the properties of the lord, namely the rivers, oceans, hills, forests, etc., were all pleased, and they used to supply their respective quota of taxes to the king. The secret of success, emphasis, is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. End of emphasis. Without his sanction, nothing can be possible. To make economic development by our own endeavors on the strength of tools and machinery is not all. The sanction of the Supreme Lord must be there. Otherwise, despite all instrumental arrangements, everything will be unsuccessful. The ultimate cause of success is the Daiva, the Supreme. Kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira knew perfectly well that the king is the Supreme Lord's agent who looks after the welfare of the mass of people. Actually, the state belongs to the Supreme Lord. The rivers, oceans, forests, hills, drugs, etc. are not creations of man. They're all creations of the Supreme Lord, and the living being is allowed to make use of the property of the Lord for the service of the Lord. Today's slogan is that everything is for the people, and therefore the government is for the people and by the people. But to produce a new species of humanity at the present moment on the basis of philosophy and religion, justice and peace, God consciousness and the perfection of human life, in short, the ideology of godly communism, the world has to again follow in the footsteps of kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira or Parikshit. There is enough of everything by the will of the Lord, and we can make proper use of things to live comfortably without enmity between man and man, or man and animal, or man and nature. The control of the Lord is everywhere, and if the Lord is pleased, every part of nature will be pleased. The rivers will flow profusely to fertilize the land. The oceans will supply sufficient quantities of minerals, pearls, and jewels. The forests will supply sufficient wood, drugs, and vegetables, and the seasonal changes will effectively help produce fruits and flowers in profuse quantity. The artificial way of living, depending on factories and tools, can render so-called happiness only to a limited number at the cost of millions. Since the energy of the masses of people is engaged in factory production, the natural products are being hampered, and thus the masses are unhappy. Without being educated properly, the masses of people are following in the footsteps of the vested interests by exploiting natural reserves. And therefore, there is acute competition between individual and nation and nation. There is no control by the trained agent of the Lord. At one time, Prabhupada said, today's world is simply a pandemonium. It simply is chaos. It's just everybody is just trying to exploit each other. And parents think that they should train their children on how to survive in this jungle of modern life. We must look into the defects of modern civilization by comparison here and should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Yudhishthira to cleanse man and wipe out anachronisms. Anachronism means simply to do something which is so out of place, like to follow modern industrial civilization. It's just out of place. This is a fact, and environmentalists are increasingly trying to make the mass of people understand, but everyone is helpless because they don't know how to, as one environmentalist said, we have our foot firmly pressing the accelerator. So we don't know how to convince the mass of people to take their foot out. Now is a good time to present the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, immediately simplify people's way of living. 6. Nadhayo vyadhayah klesha daiva bhutatma hetavaha ajata shatrava bhavan jantunam ragi karhichit. Because of the kings having no enemy, the living beings were not at any time disturbed by mental agonies, diseases, or excessive heat or cold. Swami, आधयो मनोव्यथाः व्याधयो रोगाः क्लेशाः शीतोष्णादिकृताः दैवं भूतानि च आत्मा हेतुर्येषाम् आधिदैविक आदीनां ते जन्तूनां न भवन्. So they did not experience distresses of the adhidaivika, adhibautika, and adhyatmika type. That is indicated by the words daivam, bhutani, and no, by the word, what is that? Daiva bhuta atma hetava. Isn't it there? Yeah, daiva bhuta atma hetava. Daiva indicates adhidaivika, bhuta indicates adhibautika, atma indicates adhyatmika. Vishnath, sorry, Baladev Vidyabhushana. आधयः मानसपीडाः एंग्जाइटीज व्याधयः ज्वरादयः रोगाः diseases like fever क्लेशाः कामक्रोध लोभ मोह आदयः trouble due to lust anger greed delusion and so on कामक्रोध मोह लोभ मद मात्सर्य दैवादयः हेतवः येषां ते दैव हेतुरणां वृष्ट्यादिः. So the disturbance is due to supernatural power or lack of rainfall, etc. Bhuta Hetur Unmadadi, the so Adhidaivika distress is lack of rainfall, etc. Adhibhautika distress is madness, etc. When one is haunted by a ghost or so on. Atma Hetuhu Ushtadihi. Adhyatmika distress is like leprosy. Purport to be non-violent to human beings and to be a killer or enemy of the poor animals is Satan's philosophy. In this age, there is enmity toward poor animals, and therefore the poor creatures are always anxious. The reaction of the poor animals is being forced on human society. And therefore, there is always the strain of cold or hot war between men individually, collectively, or nationally. There is some evidence that, as far as recorded history goes, the greatest number of war casualties or the greatest number of wars. I think it's the greatest number of war casualties. I have noted it in one of my footnotes for the fourth canto of Valmiki Ramayana. Fourth canto or third canto. That was in the previous century. So it is not that by developing technology, we have made human beings better human beings. If Satyam Shaucham.
Your internet connection is now very weak.
No, I'm able to hear properly.
Is anyone else having difficulty? This is Adhi Yantrik.
It started at 8:30. After 8:30, this problem.
Sometimes I know that in our room when I was giving class, and that internet connection is unstable.
Okay, wait. Let me see if.
No, I'm able to hear you properly.
Can anyone hear me now?
I was able to hear you before also.
Can anyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, bro.
Come on, bro. Am I
Yes, bro.
audible?
Yes, bro.
I connected with this inglorious 5G. Let's wait and see whether it works or not.
For JPSR 35, that is not stable.
Ultimately, it's all gambling only.
That is Bhagwan once. Bhagwan is giving everywhere. The Chitmanpur is also Bhagwan one only.
At the time of Maharaj Yudhishthira, there were no different nations, although there were different subordinate states. The whole world was united, and the supreme head, being a trained king like Yudhishthira, kept all the inhabitants free from anxiety, disease, and excessive heat and cold. They were not only economically well-to-do, but also physically fit and undisturbed by supernatural power, by enmity from other living beings, and by disturbance of bodily and mental agonies. There is a proverb in Bengali that a bad king spoils a kingdom and a bad housewife spoils a family. This truth is applicable here also. Because a king was pious and obedient to the Lord and sages, because he was no one's enemy, and because he was a recognized agent of the Lord and therefore protected by him, all the citizens under the king's protection were, so to speak, directly protected by the Lord and his authorized agents. Unless one is pious and recognized by the Lord, he cannot make others happy who are under his care. There should be full cooperation between man and God and man and nature, and this conscious cooperation between man and God and man and nature, as exemplified by King Yudhishthira, will bring about happiness, peace, and prosperity in the world. The attitude of exploiting one another, the custom of the day, will bring only misery. See, in Varnashrama Dharma, Sri Goviparanand Prabhu once explained, those who are more selfless are placed higher. It is a stratified society. Today's world is also stratified. Today's world is stratified in terms of social power and in terms of money. But in Varnashrama Dharma, stratification is on the basis of selflessness. Those who are more selfless are placed on top. And amongst those who are selfless, those who are more enlightened are placed on top. So those who are enlightened and selfless are put at the top. So the more enlightened one is amongst the selfless, they are given a higher position. The more selfless one is placed on top. And it is also logical. It is also logical. If you have two children and one is more selfless and one is more selfish, then you will naturally tend to favor the selfless one, because the selfless one is thinking about the happiness of more than just that individual. So it is natural, intuitive it is. The attitude of exploiting one another, the custom of the day, will bring only misery. 7. Ushitva hastinapure masan katipayan harihi suhridam cha vishokaya swasischa priyakamyaya. In Sanskrit, this is a sentence fragment. I think it will be completed in the next verse. Sri Hari, Lord Sri Krishna, resided at Hastinapur for a few months to pacify his relatives and please his own sister Subhadra. Swami, idanim dwarakaagamanam nirupayitum aha ushitva iti. He speaks this verse, Sutta Goswami, in order to describe the Lord's departure to Dwaraka, ushitva iti. Swasuho Subhadraya. Krishna was to start for Dwaraka, his own kingdom, after the battle of Kurukshetra, and Yudhishthira being enthroned. But to oblige the request of Maharaj Yudhishthira and to show special mercy to Bhishma Dev, Lord Krishna stopped at Hastinapur, the capital of the Pandavas. The Lord decided to stay, especially to pacify the aggrieved king, as well as to please Subhadra, sister of Lord Sri Krishna. Subhadra was especially to be pacified because she lost her only son Abhimanyu, who was just married. The boy left his wife Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit. The Lord is always pleased to satisfy his devotees in any capacity. Only his devotees can play the parts of his relatives. The Lord is absolute. 8. Amantriya Chabhyanugyata Parishvajyabhivadyatam Arurohar Ratham Kaishchit Parishvaktobhivaditaha. Afterwards, when the Lord asked permission to depart and the king gave it, the Lord offered his respects to Maharaj Yudhishthira by bowing down at his feet, and the king embraced him. After this, the Lord, being embraced by others and receiving their obeisances, got into his chariot. Tam Yudhishthiram. Where is Pritha? Prithaya Abhivadya Pranamya. Baladev Vidyabhushan says that Pritha offered her respects to Lord Krishna. Abhyanugyataha Dattasammatiga Krishnaha Ratham Aruroha. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the elder cousin of Lord Krishna, and therefore, while departing from him, the Lord bowed down at the king's feet. I used to think that these were all ancient customs, but Dharmatma Prabhu says that even now, if you're an elder brother, then the younger ones are very respectful. They speak in plural, they speak with a soft voice, they take permission, they ask for advice, which if they don't follow, they would be chastised. These things are still going on, and it is good if these things are followed, actually. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not like this Gauna Vithi, the secondary regulations. Secondary regulations refer to Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, Sri Dharma. These ones should go away. He specifically wanted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees to follow these things because Lord Chaitanya himself followed these things also. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the elder cousin of Lord Krishna, and therefore, while departing from him, the Lord bowed down at the king's feet, raised him as a younger brother. Although the king knew perfectly well that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the Lord takes pleasure when some of his devotees accept him as less important in terms of love. No one is greater than or equal to the Lord. The Lord takes pleasure when some of his devotees, means some of his pure devotees, perfect pure devotees, accept him as less important in terms of love. No one is greater than or equal to the Lord, but he takes pleasure in being treated as younger than his devotees. These are all transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The impersonalist cannot enter into the supernatural roles played by the devotee of the Lord. Thereafter, Bhima and Arjuna embraced the Lord because they were of the same age. But Nakula and Sahadeva bowed down before the Lord because they were younger than he. Text 9 to 10. Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Virata, Tanaya, Tatha, Gandhari, Dhritarashtrascha, Yuyutsur, Gautamo, Yamau, Vrikodrascha, Dhaumyascha, Striyo, Matsya, Sutadayaha, Na Sehire, Umuhyanto, Viraham, Sharnathan, Vanaha. At that time, Subhadra, Draupadi, Kunti, Uttara, Gandhari, Dhritarashtra, Yuyutsu, Kripacharya, Nakula, Sahadeva, Bhimasena, Dhaumya, and Satyavati all nearly fainted because it was impossible for them to bear separation from Lord Krishna. Sridhar Swami, Yuyutsu, Dhritarashtra, Vaishyayam Jataha. Yuyutsu was born from Dhritarashtra and Vaishya wife. Gautamaha Kripaha, Yamau Nakula Sahadeva. Baladev Vidyabhushan notes, Yuyutsu Dhritarashtra Vaishyayam Patniyam Jataha Pandavanu Yayi Mahaviraha. He was a great hero who was a follower. Yuyutsu was a great hero who was a follower of the Pandavas. He was born in a Vaishya wife from Dhritarashtra, Gautama Kripacharya. Matsya Sutta Uttara. The word Matsya Sutta refers to Uttara. Tasyaha Punargrahanam Garbharakshaka Krishna Virahe Mohadhikya. Even though Uttara was mentioned before, Virata Tanaya, she's again mentioned second time because she was missing Lord Sri Krishna who had protected her womb, and therefore she was even more bewildered when Lord Krishna left. Yadva, or else Matya Sutta Satyavati refers to Satyavati. Baladev Devbhushan also says Matsya Sutta is Satyavati. Lord Shri Krishna is so attractive for the living beings, especially for the devotees, that it is impossible for them to tolerate separation. The conditioned soul, under the spell of the illusory energy, forgets the Lord. Where is this? Otherwise, he cannot. The feeling of such separation cannot be described, but it can simply be imagined by devotees only. After the separation from Vrindavan and the innocent rural cowherd boys, girls, ladies, and others, they all felt shock throughout their lives. And the separation of Radha Rani, the most beloved cowherd girl, Krishna's most beloved cowherd girl, is beyond expression. Once they met at Kurukshetra during a solar eclipse, and the feeling which was expressed by them is heart-rending. There is, of course, a difference in the qualities of the transcendental devotees of the Lord, but none of them who have ever contacted the Lord by direct communion or otherwise can leave him for a moment. That is the attitude of the pure devotee. 11 and 12. Satsangan mukta dussango hatum not sahate buddha kityamanam yasho yasya sakradakarnya rochanam tasmanyasta dhiyah partha sahiran viraham katham darshana sparsha samlapa shayanasana bhujanai. An intelligent person who has understood the Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees and has become freed from bad materialistic association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though he has heard them only once. How then could the Pandavas tolerate his separation? For they had been intimately associated with his person by seeing him face to face, touching him, conversing with him, and sleeping, sitting, and dining with him. Swami, Tesham Krishna Viraha Asahanam Kaimatyanyayena Aha. What is surprising, what is astonishing about their inability to tolerate Lord Krishna, that is pointed out in two verses, 11 and 12. Satsangaditi dvabhyam. Satsangad hetor muktaha putradi vishayaha dussangaha yena saha. A person, simply by associating with bona fide saints, becomes liberated from the evil emotional attachment in the form of attachment to one's sons and so on. Sadbhi kirtimanam ruchikaram yashaha sakritabhya akarnya. As soon as he hears even once the glory of the Supreme Lord, when it is presented by such bona fide saints, and it generates taste in it, Satsangam Chaktum na Shaknoti, we cannot give up that association with genuine saints. Darshanadibis Tasmin Shri Krishne Nyasta Adhyasta Dhiri Yesham Te. Sneha Sthai Bhavamaha Satsangad Ityadi Chaturvidhi. Jiva Goswami in Preeti Sandarbha, Anucheda 88, says that 11, 12, 13, 14 point out that the Pandavas, their Sthai Bhava was on the platform of Sneha. He refers to text 13 and 14 to point out certain symptoms of Sneha. Sneha is a state beyond Prema. There are states beyond Prema. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has noted Satsangan mukta dussango yena saha. Tena satsangam vina dussango madamatsaradi hetuho na apayati. Without association with genuine saints, the evil emotional attachment in the form of mother, matsara, pride, jealousy, okay, evil association that brings about pride, jealousy, and so on, does not go away. Tad apagamena vina bhagavadyashah rochikam dustyajam cha na bhavati iti siddhante dhvanitaha. So two conclusions have been brought out here. One is that without the removal of the cause of mother matsara and so on, the unnecessary emotional association, emotional attachment we have towards others, that is the cause of pride, jealousy, and so on. And that unnecessary evil emotional attachment, if that is not removed, then the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is neither experienced as being tasteful, nor does one become addicted to it. This is hinted here. The living being's constitutional position is one of serving a superior. He is obliged to serve by force the dictates of illusory material energy in different phases of sense gratification. And in serving the senses, he is never tired. Even though he may be tired, the illusory energy perpetually forces him to do so without being satisfied. There's no end to such sense gratificatory business, and the conditioned soul becomes entangled in such servitude without hope of release. The release is only effected by association with pure devotees. By such association, one is gradually promoted to his transcendental consciousness. Thus, he can know that his eternal position is to render service unto the Lord and not to the perverted senses. In the capacity of lust, anger, desire to lord it over, etc., material society, friendship, and love are all different phases of lust. Home, country, family, society, wealth, and all sorts of corollaries are all causes of bondage in the material world, where the threefold miseries of life are concomitant factors. As one associates with pure devotees and hears them submissively, attachment for material enjoyment slackens, and attraction for hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord becomes prominent. Once this attraction begins, it goes on progressively increasing without stoppage, like fire and gunpowder. It is said that Hari, the personality of Godhead, is so transcendently attractive that even those who are self-satisfied by self-realization and are factually liberated from all material bondage also become devotees of the Lord. Under the circumstances, it is easily understood what must have been the position of the Pandavas, who were constant companions of the Lord. They could not even think of separation from Sri Krishna, since the attraction was more intense for them because of continuous personal contact. Their position in separation from him was no less than that of the gopis of Vrindavan. The Lord being absolute, however, separation from him is as good as personal contact. Remembrance of his form, qualities, name, fame, pastimes, etc., is so attractive for the pure devotee that he forgets all forms, qualities, names, fame, and activities of the mundane world, and due to his mature association with other pure devotees, is not out of contact with the Lord for a moment. Okay, so I'll stop with that. Okay. So we'll continue like this. It's just at least
I couldn't see the screen, so he wrote. I told to write to you.
Who?
Achitanam Prabhu.
Ah,
He couldn't see your screen. He was not able to follow.
but at least my connection was not broken.
It is in your computer. Albor?
I was using like hard copy of Bhagavad.
You're using hard copy of Bhagavatam?
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. That's good. All right, so we'll stop with this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And meeting for